Hello and a warm welcome to our Irish Angle show, our weekly look back at all things horse racing both in Ireland and abroad. And as usual, I have Johnny Ward with me, and unusually, I've Emma Nagle back. Hasn't been here for a couple of weeks. Welcome back, Emma. How did the holiday go?
Thanks, Vincent. Yeah, no, I was keeping in touch with you on the beach in Italy. So yeah, no, it's nice. Feels like I've been gone for a long time, but keeping in touch with all things racing. So hopefully I won't be too far behind you here.
Good stuff. Well, we'll start off with one of the big things from last week, even though it wasn't a race as such. Was City of Troy going to Southwell to have his little practice run for the Breeders' Cup Classic? What you make of that, Johnny? Seemed to be a roaring success for all involved.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit unusual, the whole thing. Very, very unusual, as Aidan O'Brien might say about one of these horses. Nowadays, probably City of Troy among them. Just in the sense that, he was taking the horse over to gallop on a surface that probably will only vaguely resemble the dirt surface that he'll face in Delmar. And there was quite a lot of hype about it. The Racing Post certainly pushed the hype a good bit on it. Stuff that's what Aidan said in relation to Ryan riding him and how it compared to other sort of efforts that he's had. But part of me is a little bit kind of cynical about the whole thing. Part of me actually likes the whole City of Troy story and the fact that there were quite a good number, a few hundred people seemingly showed up to watch it. And it's a bit of racing publicity about a horse that is a rare horse in my lifetime anyway, who's gone over with a genuine chance of success in the Breeders' Cup Classic. As you wrote in your blog today, well, you didn't say this, but the amount of trainers I see, and pretty well-known trainers who are at the races now leading their horse around the parade ring beforehand, maybe driving the horse to the horse box, and it's a one-man or one-woman operation. And that's very, very common. And in this instance, obviously, as you say, upwards than 50 grand spent to send a horse over for a gallop with another horse and all the staff that entailed and all of that. But whatever about it, I'm really looking forward to running the Classic. I don't know if this will advance much in that regard, but Aidan O'Brien knows more than me.
Yeah, our friend Icy on Twitter tells me it was 250,000 sterling the excursion cost them by the time they got everything sorted between paying Southwell a few quid or whatever else and harrowing the surface to make it as near as they could get to a dirt surface as well. But I don't know, it's astonishing numbers, isn't it? The amount of money it costs. Like as I say, an ordinary trainer couldn't even dream of doing something like that. Emma, your dad would never think of that, would he?
I think 250,000 might be a bit of a exaggeration of the cost. Now, I'm sure it wasn't cheap flying the horses over and bringing the stalls and all this and all the amount of staff they bought. I can't imagine TJ doing it. No, we'd probably go as far as Joe Mahan now to school a few horses, and that would be the end of that. It's not getting publicised on TV yet, unfortunately. But I actually really enjoyed it, to be honest. I was actually in the UK the day of it, and I was kind of hoping they might gallop a bit earlier in the day, so I could have gone up and got back in time for my flight home, but it didn't work out. I think they were maybe slightly disappointed with the crowds. We were talking about a bit off air. I think there was like maybe 1,500 kind of registered interest, I suppose, and maybe about half of those actually showed up in the day. But it was, I suppose, a bit of an awkward time on an evening on a Friday. But it was a massive spectacle. Like even like looking on social media when it was all unfolding, like everyone was just sitting there at 3 or 4 o'clock on a Friday evening, waiting to see this like 90-second piece of work. It's hard to know what to take from it. Like Coates and Aidan O'Brien, I suppose, always get your heart pumping a bit. Was he saying it was the best he ever saw him in all this? Look, he was galloping against 90-rated sprinters. I'm sure they set the gallop up as fast as they can. I thought it was kind of maybe, look, you can't read too much into it, but he did settle really, really well, I thought. Like you watch him in his last couple of races, he pulled quite hard. Now, they probably went hard enough, like the two horses out in front were kind of sprinters, and they probably went as fast as they could and just carried him along. But he settled really well, and look, you can't read too much into it, but I kind of bought into the excitement of it, to be honest. Like the whole thing was just set up so well, and like having the crowd there, the way like Aidan and Ryan Moore both spoke to the TV cameras kind of so openly. Like I saw Ryan getting interviewed, I think, by Southwell Racecourse themselves, and he just seemed really happy to talk to them about this horse. Even like they had the jackets made up for the staff from the day and everything. It was just kind of all building into the hype of it, and that's something that Coolmore do really, really well, I suppose. They can get you excited about a horse, and maybe they should be taking over the marketing plans for all of the racing in Ireland, because they do draw you into it. And look, I enjoyed it. It's definitely like a positive. I suppose we're looking for them a bit these days, a positive kind of PR spin for racing. Like, it was kind of pure racing fans tuning in to watch this. I was maybe slightly disappointed with the coverage of it, though, to be honest. I was in the airport when it was on, and watching the live stream on YouTube, and we were just looking at the track in Southwell for about half an hour. We didn't even get to see the parading or anything like that. So maybe a trick missed there from Sky Sports Racing. But yeah, it's exciting, and it would kind of get you excited for Del Mar in a few weeks' time as well.
A broader point as well, Vinny, and kind of just extrapolating what Emma's saying there. Like, I do find people in racing, they're so quick to be negative, like so quick. Not necessarily even trainers and jockeys and that, but like people who follow the sport are journalists among them as well. You've been in the press room; it's a fairly cynical race the best times. Like, people are so, like, they'll give out about the Curragh, even though it's an amazing facility on Irish Champions Festival. They'll give out about stuff like this, even though there's nothing really negative about it, and it's good for publicity. And I do find that funny. I just think there's so much negativity around racing from people who actually love the sport.
Yeah, no, in fairness, I couldn't see any negatives here, but I do see them in the Curragh. I know you seem to think it's nirvana when you go, but I can see all sorts of problems with it. Yeah,
but like, even for Southwell Racecourse, I was looking up their attendances for 2023, I think, and even if I think people were saying, was it 750 actually showed up on the day, but I think that's still higher than this average attendance for the entire year in Southwell last year. I think their average is about 600 or 700 or something like that. So, like, to be able to draw that kind of crowd just to watch one horse gallop for 90 seconds, like, it kind of just shows that maybe the sport should be marketed more around, the horse being the superstar, because people definitely do still buy into these kind of stories. And yeah, it's definitely something maybe to think about when you're kind of marketing like these big festivals in particular, like, marketing the likes of the Irish Champions Festival. Like, should it be built up more around, the clashes of economics and horses like this? Because I'd imagine, like, going to a meeting like that, the public aren't as interested in flat racing, but when you've got like this public, like this, I suppose Coolmore are marketing this horse so much and everyone just hears about him. Whereas, like, for the other big flat meetings, like, you'd be surprised if the general public would even name a horse that was running, unless it's like the likes of Royal Ascot or something like that. So it definitely shows, like, the public can get behind a horse like this if they're kind of pushed enough, and maybe the likes of outside of Coolmore, we should be doing more of it.
Yeah, having said that, now I think if you'd have taken out full page ads with economics on them in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, I don't think anyone would have been interested, to be honest with you. He's too far away from isn't he? He'd only run twice this season. Was it once in Newmarket early in the season or something, and once in France? So you were hardly going to get the blood boiling over that one, I would have thought. But anyway, staying in England with another issue over there, our British racing. This one doesn't affect Coolmore or Ballydoyle at all, is the ban on Irish runners in Class 5 and Class 6 races. This is an odd one, and it's been there for a while, but they're going to keep it going, which seems a bit odd, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's strange. I think it kind of came in originally during COVID. Was it the 2 years during COVID or whatever? And then I think the start of 2023, they kind of announced, I thought it's not in place on the over jumps anymore, but on the flat, I think it's just from the 1st of September to the 31st of December, which is, significant portion of the calendar for Irish trainers. Not allowed run in Class 5 or Class 6 races. And, like, you can see the reasoning behind the kind of the uproar over this, because I think a few trainers have pointed out these races aren't always full. I think a lot of the time the races don't fill at all. And I think the BHA's reasoning is kind of trying to create better opportunities for British runners, or, allow them to have better opportunities. And they're saying that the Irish runners statistically will overperform when they come over to the UK. But it doesn't seem fair, and it's easy to see the case that Marshall Watson in particular has been fairly vocal about it. Like, he's a trainer based in the north of Ireland. He's a UK citizen. He pays his taxes in the UK, and he's not allowed to run his horses in the UK in these type of races. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around it, to be honest. And I think he's been kind of raising it at a higher level with politicians in Northern Ireland. But, like, even apart from the Northern Irish aspect of it, I don't think it should be in place at all. It doesn't seem right, and it's not something that we would do here. I don't think the Irish authorities would ever restrict British runners running here. So yeah, it doesn't really sit right with me, to be honest.
I'd say we would restrict them here if they were winning all our races now, in fairness. I'd say if you had your Ian Williams coming over like he did in Laytown last week and landing a bit of a touch, if that was happening on a daily basis, I think there's something would be done here too, to be honest with you, because there'd be an uproar from the Irish trainers. What do you think, Johnny?
I honestly can't think of it, and the FAI and all of these dodgy kind of are poor operations over the years. But I've never seen just consistent stupidity out of any operation like those who run British racing. This is really disgraceful, and it's so it just smacks of the insecurity that is so top to bottom with the way British racing is run, where they're afraid of one boo from an animal rights activist. They're afraid of any sort of negative publicity. They're afraid of like a horse falling in a race. They're afraid of everything, and now they're afraid of the Irish coming over running run of the mill races. And the fact of the Marshall Watson thing, and say Leanne Breen, I think, was quoted the Irish Fields. I think it might have been Leanne who brought up the Williams horse coming over and replacing horses who were Irish trained and had been balloted out. This is low grade racing, and you're telling me that we've a funding problem. We've a massive funding problem in British racing in terms of people betting on it. And your answer to that is to have smaller fields and less competitive racing, even though it's actually a cost, as you know, for as considerable cost for the Irish or Northern Irish trainers to get the boat over and to go to these run-of-the-mill meetings for bad prize money as it is in Britain, but they go over just for the opportunities, particularly if they can bring 3 or 4 horses over together. And this thing that was brought in through COVID, they're now essentially, it's very anti-competitive, but for me it just smacks at the gross stupidity of the people running British racing. I think it's an absolute joke.
And then we'll go on to Cheltenham. Next thing, we'll stick with the British racing again. Cheltenham, the Turners, is going to turn into a handicap. Is that a good thing, Emma?
I suppose it's kind of reverting to the way it was it 2011? It became a Grade 1 novice chase, and look, they definitely had to do something. Like having 3 novice chases like that, it was just kind of allowing yards to avoid each other, allowing massive clashes not to happen. I think that's the only one that they've confirmed. There was talks of the cross country becoming a handicap as well. I'm not sure is that being confirmed as of yet. I know Michael O'Leary has come out and spoken about it, saying, Tiger Roll would have never won a Grand National or something like that if he hadn't gone for this race in Cheltenham. But look, it's kind of promoting competition. Look, there's kind of been a mixed enough review, I suppose, or mixed enough reaction, I suppose, on social media to it. But they had to do something, and I think the novice chases was probably a good place to start because last year we saw it was kind of small fields and big yards were able to spread their horses out, whereas they probably could have all they could have clashed at different distances as well. And taking out the 2.5 mile race kind of looked like the obvious one. You couldn't get rid of the Arkle, and the RSA 3 mile chase is kind of a producer of Gold Cup horses. So I think it's a positive move, but like overall, it's not just Cheltenham that needs to change in the National Hunt Canada. Like it's probably one of the first years in a long time that I'm not really that excited for the National Hunt season to start because after such a great year, after such a great year in the flat, you kind of realise like on the flat it's totally different. There's so many different targets all the way through, and you're looking forward to a new festival every month. Whereas this social media chat about Constitution Hill going for the champion hurdle already isn't getting me excited whatsoever. I think the entire National Hunt calendar is probably not that exciting, I suppose, when you compare it to its flat counterpart. But look, it's positive change, and you'd hope there'll probably more to come from Cheltenham in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're going to drip feed it by the sound of it. That's the first change they throw out there, which is one of the more obvious ones. I don't know what the other ones will be. As I say, people are talking about the cross-country chase being a handicap. For me, I think that's probably a good idea, to be honest with you, because they should be for a lower grade of horse anyway, rather than necessarily a Gold Cup winner like Tiger Roll. He should be plenty of other opportunities for him to run in Cheltenham or the likes of him in the future, rather than going cross-country route. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, I guess with again, from going on what I said in the last piece, like any changes the British authorities make, I view them with suspicion as to why they're actually doing them. A lot of them are quite clearly stop Irish horses winning. And you saw, was it the rule that you had to run in 4 hurdle races to get a handicap mark, I think, which was brought in, was it last year or the year before, which was clearly stop horses like State Man running in the county hurdle and stuff like that. So basically just making up new rules as you go along to stop Irish horses winning. And this is probably something similar, but I don't like the expanded Cheltenham at all. I think there are far too many races. I'm not a fan of one trainer dominating it, be he Irish or British. So it is what it is. But Cheltenham at the moment is a big problem. This year let me down massively in terms of how uncompetitive it was. Too many races, and a lot of British trainers run away from it, which was very, very odd as well. So I don't have a strong view on it. But the Turners turned into a handicap. Like it's probably not the biggest bad thing in the world, I suppose.
No, I suppose not. Yeah, but they're going to have to do something, aren't they? The crowds were down back in March, so like once the crowds stop coming to the races at Cheltenham, it's a big problem for them because it's all about the money, isn't it? So we'll see where they end up in another few weeks. I'm sure they'll keep drip feeding us something else each week. Anyway, moving on. Listowel is on this week, one of our great festivals, 7 days of it, and we've Ryan Moore going tomorrow to ride 4 races in the flat. His first time on the little island race course. Is that a good thing, Johnny?
Yeah, like I was on the way to Navan on Saturday. I was at a service station, looked at the Irish field, and saw this lad in a Kerry jersey in the front. I kind of didn't think anything of it. It's kind of like Dougal; those women were in the nip. Then, as I was thinking about it, I was like, "Is that Ryan Moore that was in the Kerry jersey?" I was like, and then it turns out I read a blog in the Irish Field today. Frankie Dettori actually got injured, so he wouldn't have to ride in the stall. So yeah, it's class to see Ryan over. I'm not there. I'm there later on in the week, Friday and Saturday. But like, this is brilliant from whether it's Pat Healy or whoever it is to bring. He tried to get Frankie over, obviously. Then it was Oisin Murphy after Frankie came over the first time to Ireland, and then to get Ryan Moore is brilliant for the meeting. And like it's weird when Ryan was like, I interviewed Ryan after he was riding at Roscommon last year, and like you could really feel there was a buzz in Roscommon that night that wouldn't have existed around Ryan Moore, and he downplayed that at the time. But I think this stuff is excellent. I actually think personalities draw people to races more than the horses nowadays. Whereas if you get like Ryan Moore or Frankie Dettori come to meeting, Frankie Dettori come to Bellewstown was massive. Ryan Moore come to Listowel will definitely help. Whereas a horse coming there, I don't think it has the same effect anymore.
Yeah. Would have been nice, Emma, to see him ride have a couple of outside rides. He's 4 rides, all for Ballydoyle, so probably win about 3 of them by the look of it. What do you make of that? Do you think he should have had an outside ride for one of the
when they announced it, I was kind of hoping he would have. I think Pat O'Donnell has a horse running. It would be nice to see them pair up or something like that, just to add an extra bit of something to it. But look, it's good to see him there anyway, I suppose. And kind of knowing Pat Healy, I suppose he'll have him doing interviews and stuff like that. And in fairness, like Ryan Moore, like you see a lot of stuff about him on social media, maybe not being the friendliest, but like anytime I've seen him on an Irish race course, he's more than happy to stop for kids and give autographs and do whatever anyone asks him to do. So look, it's great to see him down there, and yeah, it would have been nice to see him ride for maybe a smaller trainer like or just to see something different. But look, it's good to get him there anyway, I suppose.
You mentioned Pat O'Donnell as well, Emma. I did mean to say that he did an interview in the Race and Post with Colin Greaves. I thought it was a brilliant read. Like, you don't get that many very good interviews anymore in racing where you even get the space to do it, or the journalist with the kind of time to do it. But it was a great piece. Like, he really interesting views, Pat. And I think his first line was, "I better warn you in advance," as Colin was opening the door. "I'm very opinionated," he said to someone. If you meet Pat, you'll know that. But like, it's brilliant for the sport, and it was a really good interview, I thought.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic for him. Fairy tale stuff with his big win as well. Moving on. 2025 fixture list. Horse Race in Ireland announced the Irish version of that for next year, sticking with 395 meetings, the same number as this year. The reason for that, we are told, is that there's a similar amount of horses in training to last year, so they don't think it's a prudent time to increase the number of fixtures. Yet in the recent strategic plan for the next 5 years, they're talking by 2028 that there'll be as many as 430 fixtures a year, which is an extra 35 on what we have now or what we'll have in 2025. Plus, they're saying they're hoping to have a 10% increase in attendances, which is obviously based on the fact that we're going to have 10% more race meetings. It's a bit chicken and egg, this. Is it like, if you've only got the same number of horses in training, you're always going to have the same number of fixtures. How do you increase it? You need one to start before the other, basically, whatever that is. Like, if there was too many horses, obviously they need more fixtures. But as long as they say more or less the same, we're going to have more or less the same fixtures, are we?
Oh, look, to be honest, I'd be a big fan of not diluting the quality of races and, adding kind of extra fixtures to when the amount of horses isn't increasing, kind of would maybe indicate that the races might be a bit more diluted. But I can see where you're coming from. And I was quite interested to see what the fixture list would be like when it came out. Would they add extra fixtures to allow for this new race initiative on over jumps as well? With the 60 races being for restricted to trainers. But look, I'd be a fan of keeping it how it is, to be honest. We see in the UK with their kind of bloated fixture list and, races not filling in tiny fields. If we get it here to a degree as well, but I think keeping it kind of condensed and higher quality is definitely the way to go. And like, in fairness, you can kind of slag maybe the IHRB. They get a lot of slag and the HRI for different kind of stuff, but this is something to do quite well actually, is keeping the quality of races high to a certain degree. Look, there's always going to be a few in the calendar that gets a small field and it's not the best, but to the most part it's pretty high quality racing here, and they do a good job of keeping that, I think.
Yeah, another thing they've included in this fixture list is they've got an alternative fixture list for all the Tipperary fixtures, because they're talking about building an all-weather track down there and development may start during the season. I was interested to see where they were going to, and there's lots of tracks in the southern half of the country are going to get the replacement fixtures, but there's also a couple they're sending up to Dundalk, which won't really suit trainers who might normally have a runner down in Tipperary. What did you make of it overall, Johnny?
I suppose like it's a bit difficult for HRI and what Emma's talking about, like keeping racing competitive. Whilst you have to be wary as well of there being too many meetings. And I don't know what the figure is for October. Right, I think in October, give or take, there are 45 meetings in Ireland. Right now, when I got into racing in Ireland, there was nothing on a Monday and a Tuesday generally. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You generally had racing 4 of those days or 5 of those days, and there weren't that many double meetings. This is my recollection of it, give or take 20 years ago. And a race meeting actually felt a bit like an occasion. Whereas now, like on Saturday, I was at Navan for a flat meeting that clashed with a flat meeting at Goran. Now we've normalised 2 meetings taking place in Ireland midweek that are essentially industry cards. And this was something I noticed a lot over the last year going racing. We've normalised industry meetings now, where basically there's no one there, there's no atmosphere whatsoever. And if you go there as an owner, it's not a very uplifting experience at all. The summer has been much better, in fairness. We've way too much racing, I think. We've way too much racing, whereas there's so many meetings now where there's no one there and there's no interest in it. And, you've even racetracks that are making no real effort to attract people because they get the media rights money. The media rights money is based on people betting on racing. So that's something we can't be guaranteeing going forward. Tipperary, like bringing in a second all-weather track, I know we've massive problems with with ground in Ireland now, and it's raining a lot more. But I'm very wary of that move in general, because nobody will go to that. Nobody will go to Tipperary to watch the all-weather. So just be another Kempton soulless all-weather stuff that is entirely cannon fodder for betting and to get horses a run. And I know we've a lot of low-grade horses in training, but they're low-grade horses who shouldn't be in training because they're uneconomical, and you should basically not have them in training. I think that's a better solution than having more races. But I know I'm not alone in this. There's far too much Irish racing at the moment, and I know across the industry from speaking to people at the races, it used to be kind of a bit of an event go racing. It's now becoming a chore. It's becoming far too like regular, where there are people there who are just waiting to go home. And I'd be wary of where it's going. Too many industry meetings.
I mean, you talk about that, but when you first came into racing, it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever during the winter season. For me, it was just Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday. There was no Friday Dundalks. There was no Sunday racing back then. So it has changed a lot already, but I think it's all down to this commercial side of it, isn't it? From the media rights they're getting through gambling-related revenues. So that's where they need to increase. That's another thing in the strategic plan, is looking at increasing those media rights. You can't increase them without increasing the number of fixtures realistically. So they're going to have to increase them at some point if they want to achieve the goals they're talking about. But we'll see where it all ends up. Anyway, someone who achieved a little bit of a goal last week was Dylan Brown McMonigal, 300 winner on the track with the 21-year-old. I see he had his first ride was a winner when he was 9 years of age in pony racing. He's a bit of a phenomenon, Emma, is he?
Yeah, I suppose he was a bit of a star before he even got to the track. Wasn't there that little documentary about him, 5 Stone a Lead or something? Was that the name of the pony he used to ride or something? But he was kind of a bit of a bit of an internet sensation, I suppose, before he even became a jockey. He kind of came famous in the pony racing scene because he was so small and young when he got going. But he's just been a revelation, I suppose, since he got to Joseph. But I suppose those in the flapping scene probably saw it coming. Like, he's 21 years of age, I think, maybe 2021. Like, you'd wonder, is there many jockeys who have achieved such a feat at such a young age? And, the littering of big race winners he's won as well. But, like, in fairness, you have to give a lot of credit to Joseph as well, because, before Dylan Brown, there was Shane Cross. Like, he gives these young jockeys massive, massive chances at very early stages of their career. And you can see the likes of Wayne Hassett coming up through there as well, who looks to be kind of another top class jockey in waiting. And probably no doubt in anyone's mind that Dylan Brown will be champion at some stage, probably in the very near future. And a lot of that credit probably has to go to Joseph, because there's a lot of young jockeys who are very, very talented, but just don't get the opportunities. And I'm sure he's a brilliant rider. Obviously, I'm sure he's got a very sound head and his shoulders as well, which probably helps Joseph given those opportunities. But it's massive, and it's great to see kind of young fellas coming up in the sport like that, because it's hard to break through it, and it's nice to see it when it happens.
Yeah, what's amazing there, Johnny, is think back to when you were 21. What had you done by that age? I hadn't done a whole lot anyway. This fella's ridden over 500 winners between pony racing and the racetrack, and he's ridden Group 1 winners and everything. He will be champion, will he, one day?
Yeah, I feel he's. I mean, I can't put my finger on what makes him so good, but he's amazingly natural in a race. But it does kind of make you think as well. Like Joe Canning would be deemed like a genius of a hurler, and like he's bred for it, and he'd all of this, all of that. But Joe Canning was hurling like off the wall and with his brothers when he was about 3 years of age. So maybe when you start early in life, like Dylan did, maybe it helps you along the ladder. And he's a ready-made jockey as he joins him. I should mention Declan McGuigan as well, who I can't remember exactly how they're related. It could be his uncle. But he had his first winner as a trainer on Friday night at Dundalk. I know that was a long time in coming, and he's been a big part of Dylan Brown's organisation as well. And I know the family up in Donegal. Like Donegal it's a long way from a lot of racing yards, and I know the pony circuit is strong up there. But Dylan's very impressive character as well in his interviews. He speaks very lucidly about horses. Brilliant guy. He's the world at his feet, really. I think he's probably the outstanding jockey he's not the youngest jockey in the rain room anymore, but the outstanding jockey maybe of his set of jockeys, that generation. And, it was kind of notable how early Joseph O'Brien earmarked him as his top jockey, and he's absolutely outstanding.
Yeah. Saw another little kid last week, rode a winner at the weekend on Saturday in Gordon Park, Sam Cohen. He came from the pony racing circuit as well. He's a cousin of Ben Cohen. And when he rode his first winner, I actually fancied the horse. I was going to nap it for the weekend in the Irish field, but he was declared on Friday at Dundalk. So I said, he might run there. He was first reserve, and there were a couple of non-runners. So I thought, okay, we'll skip it. We'll go for a different one. He goes and wins, of course, 14-1 to 6-1. But what was interesting after that is he picked up a 3-day suspension because he was sitting in fifth, I think, turned into the straight. As he went to make his move, he ran his horse into the back of the ones in front, and he apologised afterwards, said he got a bit too excited. But by all accounts, he's a very good kid and a bit of a talent. So one to watch out for with his claims. Still at 10 for another 2 winners and then down to 7. I think he'll ride plenty of winners. Anyway, going on to this week, can we each give the people watching a winner for Listowel we're going to try and do? I'll start off with one. A horse called Do Brazil. Richard O'Brien trains it. If you're on social media, you might have seen Richard O'Brien a couple of weeks ago. Was on about this horse, that he had one in a bumper, thought it would go very well, and it ran really poorly. Dropped out about 3 furlongs out. It's a big gamble on it. Went from, I think, 11-1 to 9-4 favourite. But he was saying afterwards, he says, he put up a little video post afterwards saying how wrong he'd got it. And he said, when you see them run like that, the way this one stopped, he says, they're either lame, they're sick, or they're no good. And he said he can definitely cross out the no good, because he's sure that this horse works very well and will win a race. It turned out afterwards the horse had a nasal discharge, so he thinks he's found a legitimate excuse for it. He thinks it may have had an abscess in its nose. So it's in a bumper on Thursday in Listowel. So if that runs, I think it'd be worth having a little bet in it. Do Brazil. All right, Emma, over to you.
I had a bit of a look at the Kerry National, probably one of the harder ones to figure out, but there was just a horse that I really liked. I've kind of been following him for a fair bit, Solitary Man for Enda Bulger, and I thought it was just interesting to see Derek jocked up with him as well. He's kind of a summertime horse, I suppose, and like looking through the field, like this, probably a few of these, I'm probably going to use it as maybe a bit of more of a springboard towards the winter. But you can imagine this might have been a bit of a target for Solitary Man, because I know Enda has kind of said in the past that he's not a horse for heavy ground. So Kerry National kind of seemed like a bit of an obvious target. He was a good hurdler last year. I followed him last year. He was second in a Grade 2 hurdling in Cork, I'm pretty sure. And he always kind of looked like a chase. He's only a 6-year-old, rated 143, but it was just notable that Enda put him in here and booked Derek O'Connor. His jumping can be a little bit novice-y, a small little bit novice-y, which be a bit of a worry, but Derek could be a massive help in that regard as well. I'm sure Derek will get him into a rhythm, and first-time cheek pieces as well were fairly eye-catching. He was about 10-1 this morning when I was looking at him, and if he was that kind of a price, I'll definitely back him each way. He's a talented horse, I'd say, and I'd imagine this has been his target. So yeah, I'd say he should run a big race, and he runs well on those kind of tight-ish summary tracks, I suppose. Listowel, Clarny, the likes of those. So I'd say he could run a big race.
Good stuff. I see the real whackers coming over as well for the Kerry National. That would be interesting. It'll draw a little bit of a crowd maybe as well. Johnny, what did you pick out for during the week?
Good to see the real whacker, Fakir Dudaris and Florin Porter, Zana here. They're pretty high-profile horses with Grade 1 form back in the day. You're not going to believe this, but I'm exactly with Emma. This is the horse I picked out. I've been a fan of Solitary Man since he was a novice hurdler, really, and he's been quite trip versatile. He won over 2-1 at Killarney, and then he was second to Easy Fellow. Easy Fellow is a good horse, and the Inda Bulgers had so much time to sort for a long time. Derek is definitely an interesting book, and horses, I in these races, I think you badly need a horse that has a little bit of room for improvement. He's only 6. What does he have? 4 chase starts, first or second in all of them. And if he gets into a rhythm, I'd make him probably favourite, to be honest, in the race. I think he's a lot of ability, and he's 10 stone 12 and Derek in his back.
Great stuff. Well, that's it from us now. So if you are having a bet, do gamble responsibly. Don't blame any of us if those 2 horses lose. And make sure to subscribe to our channel. The little button below, you can subscribe to it if you're watching on YouTube, and you'll get all the notifications about all the other shows we have coming up. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.